Alright, here's the obligatory disclaimer. None of these protocols and herbs that we will be discussing in the Elven Healing series has been evaluated by the FDA. Everything here is for educational purposes as describing the historical uses of these methods. You are recommended by the FDA to continue to see your other doctor and to discuss these protocols before you use them. I have personally used these in my practice. Again, this is for purely educational purposes. Namari. Mae Govannen, my Elven brothers and sisters, and welcome to the 4th edition or episode of Elven Healing. Today we're going to talk about desert plants. I'm living in the desert now with our little sanctuary, so I thought I'd go ahead and cover some of the amazing plants that actually grow around here. And don't worry about it that if you don't live in the desert, you can still get all of these online from a variety of different herbal sources. So these are amazing plants that grow out here. You know, it's amazing out in the desert with the extreme lack of rain, and yet how powerful these plants are and some of the capabilities that they have and how they've adapted to life in the desert. And some of them are wonderful healing plants, and I suspect probably they all are. It's just those that we don't know too well. We think that they're weeds when they're really not. They're really wonderful healing herbs. So we're going to talk about 6 herbs today, and so let's get started. All right, the first is a very controversial one. I have personally used it in my medical practice many times and seen great success with it, and that is Chaparral. That's Laurea tridentata. I always like to give the Latin names because a lot of herbs all use the same common name, and I don't want you getting the wrong ones. Again, in Elven culture, we believe in using natural therapy when we can, and the world is a gigantic medicine cabinet if you just know how to use it. I've spoken with many of you before, and I'm a naturopathic doctor, been in practice for over 20 years, and I have used these herbal medications in my practice very successfully. So when I tell you that Chaparral is not the big danger that the FDA tries to say it is, you can trust me, I hope. There is a rumor that Chaparral will cause liver damage. And study after study after study has found that that is not the case. Chaparral is an amazing blood cleanser. It's also called the kerosene bush. It grows ubiquitously throughout the desert, throughout most of the western United States. Easy to find, easy to get online. And it is such an amazing blood cleanser that what is the first thing that happens when the blood is cleansed? Those toxins are sent to the liver. All right. Well, if the liver is not in good shape, it's probably not going to handle those very well. That's why when we treat patients with chronic conditions, we don't ever do a blood cleanser until their liver has been brought back into shape, usually a month or 2, and then we'll go ahead and use a blood cleanser at that point. And the liver handles it just fine. So it's not that Chaparral in and of itself is as they say, hepatotoxic. It's that it's extremely efficient with what it does, and make sure your liver is in shape first. And there's like one case ever of someone supposedly being damaged by Chaparral, and it was a very old woman who already had a liver disease. And if people had known what they were doing, it would have been just fine. So, Chaparral or kerosene bush. It is especially known for its specific action in cancer and arthritis. I have seen it used successfully in both of those cases. It was considered to be a cure-all by a lot of Native Americans. It's a potent healer for the urethral tract, for the urinary tract, and good for the lymphatics to help you get these toxins out of you. It tones up the system, rebuilds the tissues, it cleanses the lower bowel, and it tones the peristaltic muscles. In other words, the muscles that are in your colon that basically help you poop. It's very bitter, but that also means that it's very good for the liver. But to the needy and courageous, as Dr. Christopher would say, it works fast for difficult conditions. The Kelly Research Foundation in Grapevine, Texas has been active in cancer research, and this is a statement that was given by Dr. William Kelly after significant research into Chaparral. Okay, the number he gives, I believe, is low, which is still nice that they can see it, but I think it's much higher, but it just depends on the patient's compliancy and what they do with their diet. Well, Dr. William Kelly went on to say, I found that Chaparral is very effective in 7% of the cases of malignancy. The action is not, as many researchers believe, a specific activity against the cancer cell, but rather an indirect one. So in other words, it doesn't directly attack the cancer cell, but it does it in another way. Indirectly helps kill it. In about 7% of the cases of malignancy, the pancreas and the liver, as well as other tissues of the body, are so congested with poisons, such as medications, sprays, drugs, metallic poisons, and pollutants, that these tissues cannot carry on normal activity. And that's what they found that Chaparral does, is it cleans those out so the body can more efficiently attack the cancer. From a question that was given to Dr. Christopher quite a number of years ago, does Chaparral actually cause acceleration in the growth of cancer? A lot of people believe that Chaparral causes cancer to grow faster, and the answer was actually the healing action of Chaparral is one that causes concern to those watching the results. So he went on to say that Chaparral is a powerful cell proliferant, which means it causes cells to grow quickly, but only healthy cells grow rapidly. The cancer cells do not. During their fast new growth, the good cells push the dead cells and their waste into a deposit. This growth of waste material has an alarming appearance and frightens the uninformed in believing the cancer is growing rapidly. We have seen this condition in a number of times. As it reaches a crisis condition, after the growth loads up with toxic materials, it then starts decreasing in size and the healing process takes place. I have personally seen this in my practice, where it looks like they're getting sicker, but then when we actually take a look at the material inside, it's actually dead cells. The Chaparral, because we just read that it is good for the lymphatic system, and your lymphatic system is your sewer system, part of it, and so it's pushing these dead cells out. And sometimes they kind of get a little backed up a little bit, and then eventually will pass on through. So they found out it actually doesn't cause the cancer cells to grow fast. It rebuilds healthy cells, and those basically do their job and get rid of the dead and cancer cells. All right, so that's Chaparral. It's amazing for cancer. It's amazing for arthritis. But another list, they goes on and say that it's good for cancer, arthritis, rheumatism, stony deposits like kidney stones, gallstones, stomach disorders, bladder problems, kidney troubles, even hemorrhoids. And the list goes on and on and on. So wonderful herb. I highly recommend that you look into it. You can, like I said, you can find it on local health food stores or online. Chaparral, it's not the big scary thing that they made it out to be. I have seen wonderful success with it myself. All right, we're going to go on to the next herb. Okay, and this is actually also a little tree or bush, and that is cedar berries. It's commonly known as juniper, but it is a type of cedar berry, and it's Juniperus monosperma. All right, monosperma means one stone. All right, a lot of people will mistake cedar berries for regular juniper berries, and juniper regular juniper is called Juniperus communis, and you can actually tell the difference. So easy. You take the seed from the bush or the tree, break it open, and if it's regular juniper, it has like 3 seeds in it. But cedar berries, when you break it open, it's one seed, monosperma, one seed. And I've seen it growing out here in the desert, and it's extremely easy to get online. This herb had an unknown ability that kind of shocked Dr. Christopher. And here's his little story. He said, a breakthrough came a number of years ago by accident, divine providence, I believe. A patient came to me with a problem of having trouble in voiding his urine. So in other words, he needed a diuretic. He needed to help something to pee. This was years ago when I would mix my formulas as needed in my own herb laboratory. As I was in a hurry that day and did not have time to mix up a regular diuretic formula for him, I told him to use some juniper berries, and if they were fresh, to chew them or make them into a tea. His response is that he had some growing in his own backyard and would use them. All right, they were not talking about the same plant. Because, as I mentioned earlier, that's why I give the Latin names, because plants can have the same common name. So you have juniper and you have cedar berries, but they're both called juniper. Right, so Dr. Christopher had told this patient who couldn't pee, go use juniper, and he meant Juniperus communis, all right, because it is a diuretic. It makes you pee. And the patient said, okay, I know what you mean, I've got some growing. So he went off and did it. It wasn't the same plant. Weeks later, he returned and he said the juniper berries were not giving him much help in voiding his urine. Knowing how efficient they really were in doing this, and it's Dr. Christopher, I asked him to let me see the juniper berries he was using. He took some from his pocket as he carried them around, chewing them on during the day, and showed them to me. I laughed and said, those are not what I meant. The true juniper berry I had recommended to him would have 5 or 6, I said 3, but it can have 5, 6, or even more small stones in it. But the ones that he had been using had only 1. It was actually of the juniper family, but was the Utah monostone cedarberry, Juniperus monosperma. It grows in the West, such as Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Texas. It's here in California. All right, and in the National Cedar Forest, but is entirely different from the one that Dr. Chris recommended. When I told him about the mistake, I gave him some juniper berries, which eventually worked and did the job to help him with peeing. I was astounded about his reply because Dr. Christopher had originally told him, you can stop using those. I was astounded about his reply because after thanking me, he stated he would continue using the cedar berries anyhow. When I asked him why, he said, well, since using what you call cedar berries, I have been able to cut down on my insulin as I'm a diabetic. I wasn't sure I had heard him right after looking for something like this for years, and asked him to repeat what he said. Upon his verification of what I hoped he had said, I was very excited and asked him to increase the amount he was using and keep in touch. He did so, and in a few months his pancreas, which had finally found the right food, the cedar berries, was healed and producing its own insulin. And I have personally seen this. Diabetics who were insulin dependent, almost immediately upon using cedar berries, they were able to cut their insulin down by half, because they were constantly checking their glucose levels. He goes on to say, I then tried it on a number of my patients who were diabetic with great results. One of them was a lady who was using about 85 units of insulin a day. She was put on the mucusless diet, which is a raw vegan diet, given the lower bowel formula, and told to use at least 6 cedar berries 3 or more times a day. She was instructed to continue using her insulin, but to watch her glucose test carefully and taper her insulin intake gradually as the test would act as a gauge. She had gradually tapered off her insulin, and by the end of the year was not using any more. Her own body, her pancreas, supplying it as she required its use. She had no reoccurrence, but of course she stayed on the diet because a faulty diet is the cause of the pancreas malfunction. So there you go. Cedar berries for diabetes. Absolutely amazing. I have personally watched it work. All right, the next herb we're going to talk about is a cactus. All right, it's called prickly pear. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it. Opuntia compressa or Opuntia humifusa. All right, it is prickly pear. Prickly pear, or cactus fruit, is the common name of the fruit that grows on top of the leaves of the Nopales cactus. Like I said, we actually have one growing in our backyard here. Spread throughout North and South America, about 200 different species of Nopales cacti are found, all of which have some form of this prickly pear fruit, although not all varieties are edible. The most commonly used species for eating and for cooking is the indica one. All right. The most interesting thing about this fruit is that it grows on the very edge of the spiny leaves of these imposing cacti, which are some of the hardiest. For example, in ours, they don't even get watered. As dry as it is here, they don't get watered. They just get what little they can, and they actually do quite well. Well, here's some of the benefits. They're very high nutritionally. You can actually eat the edible ones, and they're great. They're high in vitamin C, the B family, magnesium, potassium, calcium, copper, lots of fiber in them. They're amazing plants. They're really not bad tasting at all. All right, it's also been found because of the calcium content that they can help strengthen your bones and teeth. You don't need the calcium supplements when you could get it from your food. All right, so there's also been some studies showing that it has some anti-cancer properties. Anyway, prickly pear, high in nutrition. It has antioxidants compounds. It actually helps heal the liver and neutralizes free radicals because they cause the healthy cells, to mutate. That's what the free radicals do. So they help to knock out free radicals. All right. Additionally, research tests conducted in laboratory mice, which I don't agree with, but they did it, led to a team from the University of Arizona found that Arizona prickly pear cactus helped suppress tumor growth. Amazing. All the chemotherapy that you want is out there in nature if you know how to use it and how to take care of your body, always with proper diet. On that note, also, before I go on to the next herb, just want to let you know I will be doing another video here very shortly. For those that have been watching my channel quite some time ago, probably about a year or so ago, I did a video on the Elven diet. Well, I've decided to go ahead and expound on that, and so this will be the Elven Diet Part 2. I'll be coming out with that very shortly, talking about things exactly like this, and giving examples of how diet has helped cure my patients' issues. All right, these are actual case studies. All right, next one up online, it's not really a desert plant, but I love it so much I just wanted to talk about it, and that's slippery elm, Ulmus ruba. Okay, it is a wonderful tree. And it's the inner bark that you use. And so it is native mostly to eastern North America. Let's see, what else can we talk about it? Its common names including red elm, gray elm, Indian elm. In the United States, it's widely cultivated in order to harvest its bark, which can be ground into a pulp or dried and used as a powder. Traditionally, this tree was used for a number of medicinal purposes by the Native Americans. And some traditional herbalists and alternative practitioners still rely on slippery elm for a wide variety of reasons. So even though this isn't a desert plant, I just was inspired to talk about it today. Maybe somebody out there needs it. Maybe some Elven brother or sister is in need of this. I have used slippery elm so extensively in my practice. I have watched it heal stomach issues, colon issues. I've used it extensively with acid reflux, ulcers, stomach ulcers, duodenal ulcers, even Crohn's disease, and irritable bowel syndrome. I've seen it do amazing things. I've seen it in children when they were, when I've seen them, the term is called the inability to thrive. They're not thriving. And I've seen that making a gruel, which is an old medieval term for basically like making a paste out of it, almost like maltomeal, or oatmeal. And they would feed that to them, and it would save their lives. It was so high in nutrition. I have seen incredible things happen with this. And if they can't take it orally, you can actually make the gruel very watery and give it to them as an enema. And I have seen this personally save lives. A little boy with appendicitis. They were able to help him continue on through the healing. This was by far not all that was done, but they gave him the slippery elm gruel, even as a enema, and he survived just fine. He did great. All right, one of the reasons for this is one of the most active ingredients of slippery elm is the mucilage, with which it creates in the pulp. It is kind of this thick, gooey, but that causes it to adhere to where it's trying to heal, for example, like stomach ulcers, duodenal ulcers. All right, so one of the primary uses of slippery elm is as a digestive aid. The mucilage found in the bark is ideal for soothing the digestive tract and eliminating inflammation, such as in IBS. Again, it has very strong anti-inflammatory properties. Slippery elm has been traditionally used for sore throats as an anti-inflammatory. Again, you can make it into a paste, you can make it into a little candy, and you can swallow that and it works. Circulatory issues. There are many other nutrients found in slippery elm besides the mucilage, including iron, which is crucial for the production of red blood cells. This can increase circulation and thereby boost oxygenization to the rest of the body. It's also high in potassium, so pretty neat stuff that it does. All right. Healing properties. The rapid healing properties of slippery elm have made it popular for those suffering from injuries, burns, abrasions, and serious wounds. Salves and balms have long been made from its bark, the inner bark, in order to speed up the healing process. It is packed with nutrients and minerals as well as antioxidant compounds, and therefore it heals very, very quickly, so you can make a salve out of this. If you ever go harvest slippery elm yourself, remember that it's the inner bark, but please only take a little bit and never go all the way around and create a circle of the tree, or you will kill the tree. We always take a little bit and move on to the next. We don't take too much from any particular one. Alright, so I have seen amazing things with slippery elm. Again, a lot of people are probably familiar with like slippery elm lozenges for sore throats that you can get at the health food stores. An amazing medicine. I have seen such benefit, like I said, even in issues as severe as Crohn's disease. I've seen them literally stop bleeding because they were using slippery elm as part of their program. Next one, we got 2 more to go. This one and 1 more, and then we're done. The mesquite tree grows extensively out throughout the West. Prosopis juliiflora. Alright, mesquite is a plant whose trees are native to the southwest U.S. and South America, but it can also be found in the drier areas of Australia, Africa, and Asia. They are slow-growing trees that need little water to live. Alright, they are also an optimal source of nitrogen, which helps other plants grow around it. So if you have mesquite trees growing in your garden, they actually do help your garden, kind of like growing peanuts do. There's about 45 different species of this tree, and they all have some medical benefit to them. Alright, it has been used by Native Americans as flour and as a sweetener. Okay, it has kind of a caramel-like flavor. Some of the things that mesquite can do for you, and again, this video is not meant to go into great detail, just to kind of inspire you to go research yourself. Okay, mesquite powder is very high in fiber. Okay, we know nowadays that's good. Mesquite powder also helps lower blood sugar because the fiber binds the glucose and takes it out of your body. Mesquite powder contains an extensive amount of omega-3 fatty acids, which is good for just healing all the tissues and the cells in your body. It has very strong antifungal properties, so if you have candida, you have ringworm, you can use it topically, you have internal fungal issues inside, which is very common nowadays in North America. Mesquite powder is great, and it also is wonderful for boosting the immune system. Alright, that's mesquite. Last one, aloe vera. Latin name is aloe vera, but it's also known as Aloe barbanensis. Alright, most people know about aloe vera. We've got some growing right here in our yard. It's an amazing plant. It needs to be watered like in the desert at least once a week. But what's fascinating is aloe vera does something that most plants don't do with their leaves. The reason they kind of have these fat, succulent, juicy leaves is because it stores water in its leaves. And when it's in an especially dry time, it will go ahead and take from its reservoir. Quite fascinating. Alright, people have been reaping the benefits of aloe vera for more than 6,000 years. Its use can be traced back to the ancient Egyptians, who used the plant as a gift for the early pharaohs because it symbolized immortality. Probably because it's thrived so well in the desert. Alright. Aloe vera was first documented in the Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian papyrus that recorded ancient medical and herbal knowledge. Of course, Elves, we've known about this for even a longer time. Alright, this succulent plant is most widely known for its use in the treatment of various skin conditions. And we know its slimy, semi-fluid flesh contains a lot of healing properties. For one of the things, it's known to contain something called anthraquinones. And these act as laxatives, so aloe vera will help you poop. It's also contains something called aloin, which is an analgesic, which means it's a painkiller. Alright, it contains hormones, the types that reduces inflammation, not the type that you know for reproduction. Aloe vera contains enzymes. Okay, bradykinase is one of them, which helps reduce inflammation. Okay. Alright, and many, many others. Also is high in vitamins and minerals. It contains the B vitamins and antioxidants. Contains a lot of calcium, magnesium, zinc. Okay, all these help fight free radicals which damage your cells. And finally, it contains sugars and phytochemicals and other type things that are good for, the body with fatty acids and such like that. So I personally use, and I know a lot of you have, use it on sunburn, use it on a lot of other things. So aloe, again, super easy to use, but it has so many more benefits. All right, so that's my little desert addition of herbs that you can use that grow out where you think nothing can grow. As always, elves, in the long run, seek more of the natural healing protocols, as I tell pretty much about every one of my patients. The elven or human body has this wonderful blueprint in it to heal if you just give it the right food, if you give it the right herbal medications and natural medications. And always try to follow a holistic protocol. Holistic means whole body. It means sunlight, diet, exercise, fresh air, hobbies and activities that cause you to decompress and relax. All right, getting out in nature. One of the most important things I can tell you from an elven perspective is don't lose your connection with nature, and that includes these healing herbal medications. Because of all the stuff going on with COVID, people are not even leaving their homes. I just found out yesterday that now Amazon has a garage delivery where they will actually deliver into your garage. You give them the code or the clicker for your garage, and they'll drive up, drop it in the garage, and close the door. I understand why they're doing this, but what this is doing is, in the long run, this is encouraging people more and more to not leave their homes. It is not natural to stay inside. You are losing the connection with nature. You're losing the connection with your elven soul. Get out and enjoy life. I just saw another phrase yesterday. Some people are so afraid of death that they refuse to live. And that's what's happening now. Go out and love your life and live it. All right? Okay, so that'll be it for now. I will go ahead and like I said, be doing another video probably later today on some of the updates that's going on in the Elven community. Some exciting things have happened just in the past week again, so I will fill you in on that. And also very shortly I will be doing a video on Elven Diet Part 2. And again, I'll be doing another video here very shortly. I started this the reason elves like such and such, like why the elves are in love with the stars. Well, my next one is why are the elves in love with the trees. All right, everyone have a most blessed and gentle Elven day or evening. Namaste.